So hi, everyone, and welcome to a new chapter of What's Next, short conversations organized by the Esade Alumni Marketing Club to share ideas about how marketing and business are changing. My name is Mauro Ribó. I'm a member of the Esade Alumni Marketing Club board. Today, I'm happy because we have a good friend talking to us, Marta. Hi, Marta.
Hello, Mauro.
Hello. So Marta Martínez is the agency platforms director at Google in New York, based in New York, looking for the US business. So Marta, let me start with a question on a big topic, which is digital marketing, right? Every single company I talk to, they talk about digital marketing, right? It's like the big topic, but I'm not sure if everyone is really walking the talk on digital marketing. You have a privileged view on this landscape of digital marketing from your role. So how do you think this is changing, and moreover, how this is evolving with the current crisis of COVID?
Yeah, that's a good question. Look, it is a very challenging time for marketers because they're right now affected by having less data, more complexity, and they need to be really vigilant when it comes to being privacy first and how they treat consumer data. User expectations are rising. People around the world want more transparency and control over how their online data is collected and how it's shared and used by companies. And at the same time, the trust in digital marketing is declining. Consumers have gotten used to the open web, and they're increasingly concerned with the data practices of digital marketers and the technology companies that are behind them. They're unsure how their data is being used, and they're increasingly adapting blockers, using privacy or private browsing, and avoiding publishers whose data practices they don't understand. So there is a rising distrust, and this is resulting in actions by regulators and by technology providers. Now, the truth is, every step change in digital marketing has been driven by technology advancements. And the harder truth is that the early adopters of technology sustain growth, and the laggards struggle to catch up. So, in my opinion, the real deal in digital marketing is about leveraging data and technology that enable you to put the consumer at the heart of the strategy. Data and technology are only your tools. But of course, this data and tech, will not work if you don't have the right processes and the right people to put them in place. So when we work with marketers in the US, we advise them that they leverage what we call the 3 Ps, and this works in English: platforms, processes, and people. So platforms, think about first what technology you're going to use. The first step is execute with integrated technologies as a foundational layer. Having that integrated, open, and enterprise technical solution that supports your business can help you in bringing on constant innovation, which is crucial given that the only constant that we have is change, right? Changes in measurement, changes in brand safety, and obviously changes in user control. The truth is, technology should be the heavy lifting, bringing your data together with machine learning and becoming an enabler so that you and your teams can think about how to connect with the consumer in a more meaningful way. Now, the second pillar is process. The process encompasses all of the best practices and methodologies that help you drive all of the core competencies of your brand. They ensure that the valuable knowledge and insights that is generated from those reams of data can really make it all the way down to the business units so that they can make decisions. And lastly, but not the least important, is people. Right? Because we tend to believe that with technology, there's less work for people. And my theory is that it is the opposite. You truly need people and your talent to be very technical savvy so that they can leverage all of this technology to make decisions in a different way. And so you're right. This crisis is undoubtedly changing the landscape quite dramatically.
Of course, and Marta, you mentioned, and I think combining these 3 Ps, there's a learning curve, right? So the first movers somehow has an advantage, and one of the things that we're seeing changing rapidly is e-commerce, right? So with consumers staying at home, companies are aware of the need to build a solid online channel on top of their current channels, which in some industries are big and some industries are still small. There is a movement towards e-commerce.
Yeah.
How do you see advertising evolving behind that? So do you think advertising trying to drive traffic to brick and mortar stores or trying to build awareness is still valid, or will we see advertising moving towards completing the full funnel, driving leads and conversion, and at the end of the day, online sales?
Yeah, so you and I took a lot of marketing classes together at Esade, and we always talked about advertising and marketing, and when is advertising only one component, or where does advertising and all of those touch points really help us really find and inform broader marketing strategies, right? And so that's at the heart of that. Whether it's e-commerce or a direct-to-consumer strategy, what we are seeing is consumer behavior is changing super fast. And we use the interactions across all of the Google products to get an insight into how that's changing. There are things like Google Trends or the Think with Google blog, where you have a lot of information on how we are now seeing audiences react differently, and what are the things that they're doing online today that they were not doing online most recently. For example, virtual museum tours are going up, planning a virtual wedding, or things like online graduation, virtual graduation, like the searches and the videos that people are watching for all of these topics that they had never done online are spiking, right? And those are data points that are interesting for us to understand as a brand, because the mix is changing, right? Now, what consumers really want is to get back to a sense of normal, even if the normal is the new normal, which it looks like it's going to be quite different, right? And what we are finding is that brands have a very important role to play on this. We hear consistent feedback from our consumer communities that they see brands helping them reestablish the new normal for consumers. Because even in these very uncertain times, consumers still turn back to their Chips brand, or their yoga pants that they love, or their trusty car, or the video game subscriptions, so that they can reestablish what that new normal looks like, right? So for marketing professionals like you and I, it means that it's also the time to lean into the transformation that we all knew we were meant to initiate before COVID-19. And we just have the opportunity to do it much faster. I know that in the midst of all of this uncertainty, many of us are emerging from this experience feeling quite empowered by the status quo and the ability to invest in projects that can really make a meaningful impact, not only for our companies, but also for the world, right? So let me give you an example. Kids are at home from school, they need to watch more TV, or they can't watch more TV, or, we certainly need to get them entertained when we all try to work from home. And NBC Universal was about to launch the Trolls World Tour movie right before the pandemic, or right when the pandemic hit. With all of the theaters being closed, they had some massive decisions to make, because there they had a product that the world really wanted to enjoy, and they didn't have a way to distribute it in the traditional way, right? As you know, studios, there is a very specific window, and there has been tension over the years about studios wanting to be more flexible with the relationships that they have with movie theater operators. And that has been always a contentious relationship. Now, if they're all closed and you're NBC Universal and you have a movie, the only option you have is go to direct to video on demand and streaming options. So what Universal did is they released the movie on video on demand first and only, but they did a digital home screening at a higher price. It would be your rental price during the extended period that the movie would have been in the movie theaters, or equivalent to. And so what they are finding is the movie, which is nearly at this point, it might be over the $100 million in revenue through without the theaters, it's not as much as movie number one was, but it's certainly helping them understand completely different models. Right now, this doesn't mean that you should go to a streaming first approach for all movies going forward. Obviously not. There is a great place in the industry for studios, and they allow for the theaters, and they allow the studios to have more flexibility, right? Bypassing the theatrical release and going straight to the home rental option, studios also risk being able to get the multiple revenue streams that they get from the different distribution channels. But the truth is, there's no guarantee that this will work always in the future. We were under a very specific reality where we as consumers make decisions that we will not probably make in different circumstances. So I was telling you this story because our recommendation has been resist the urge to switch based on short-term objectives and think broader and more holistically. Like, continue to have your long-term objectives in mind. Obviously, you're going to have to adapt given the circumstances. Take this opportunity to test things and learn in areas that were not possible before. And this is the good example of something that would have taken us, many years to experiment with. But really resist the urge to completely reset strategies and do a 150. Instead, use this time to put in place structural upgrades to analytic capabilities so that you can start to use all of the data that you're capturing to reestablish or to establish consumer connections that are stronger.
And that was a great example about adapting your strategy, right? And playing with the new rules to innovate the way you do your business.
That's
you
right.
mentioned searches as a way to read reality. So let me ask you a last question on forecasting, right? Many years ago, someone told me, Google can read a trend coming trend, or they can read even a flu outbreak just by looking at the number of searchers in a specific geography, right? But today we live in a kind of paradigm maybe where with all this technology, big data and connected data, the reality is that no one saw the COVID-19 crisis coming, right? Not governments, not big public institutions, neither big companies, right? So how can medium and small companies believe they need to run data science and data-driven business models when this is somehow there's a shake on this belief, right? How do you see this tension today?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it goes back to something we spoke about before. It's true, there is a lot of data being collected, and technology has advanced, and now we can use machine learning so that people can do less manual work and they can focus in more high-value work. But remember, we talk about the 3 Ps, the platform, the process, and the people. And at the end of the day, people, humans, are still the ones that are looking at the data and assessing whether that's a normal behavior or not. That's why we spend so much time thinking about how do we train people to make them aware or to help them interpret these new sets of data that they have. Right, look, in winter, for example, there are always increases of searches in cold and flu symptoms, right? They're very helpful to help us understand if you are a brand in the pharma category. It really helps you understand how fast it's moving. However, it always takes a person or a team to interpret whether the increase is substantial enough to represent something more than a regular flu season. And so at the end of the day, no matter how much data we have, it still needs to be put into context by people who understand the businesses, who understand realities, and who understand the trends. And so, what there might be, and it's interesting because if you think about it, humans are not looking for that abnormal. There's no way that anybody could have imagined something like this. So when we're looking at the trends, we probably are not looking for a COVID-like type of spike. And so it also takes, I think, some of retraining of our imagination, our curiosity, and what we as individuals think that is possible as we examine the data. Because it's, data can tell you very different things. And, and there are some reports that there were some early indications, but who could have possibly imagined? So for me, it all brings it back to the people portion of those 3 Ps. And how do we all learn to interpret the reams of data that we're getting from all of these technologies so that it can really help us make decisions on behalf of our brands, of our companies?
The human part of the equation, which makes marketing so interesting, right?
Yeah.
Marta, thank you for sharing your thoughts today. Thank you for connecting from New York, and thank you for you watching this video to watch up to here, and hopefully you found that interesting. Please stay connected to more content coming from Esade Alumni channels, and see you soon. Thank you, Marta.
Thank you.